My name is Lily Sip. I hate waiting. Waiting usually means something bad already happened. The moment the police dog slowly turned his head towards the little girl. At the airport, something invisible but powerful shifted in the middle of that crowded terminal. Because trained canines were not supposed to react to strangers, especially not while on duty. Yet this one did, his ears lowering just slightly, as if her quiet voice had reached a place no command ever could. And for a second the noise of rolling suitcases, flight announcements, and hurried footsteps faded into nothing, leaving only a child kneeling on the cold floor and a dog who suddenly looked less like an officer and more like someone who had been waiting to be seen. Before we begin, don't forget to hit like, repost, or share and subscribe. And I'm really curious, where are you watching from? Drop your country in the comments. I love seeing how far our stories travel. Back to the story. The girl couldn't have been older than 5. Her backpack slightly too big for her small shoulders. Music. Her jacket zipped all the way up like she was trying to protect herself from more than just the airport's air conditioning. And when she asked, "Are you lost too?" it wasn't playful or loud. It was gentle, almost careful, as if she already understood what it felt like to be surrounded by people and still feel completely alone. And the dog, a German shepherd wearing a black vest marked police, didn't look away like he had from everyone else that day. What no one around them knew was that this dog named Ranger had been sitting in that same spot for over an hour, assigned to security after his handler had been rushed to the hospital following a sudden medical emergency. And while officers rotated and procedures continued, Ranger stayed exactly where his handler had last commanded him to sit, loyal, beyond logic, disciplined beyond emotion. Even as confusion slowly settled into music, his posture, because training told him to wait, but instinct told him something was wrong. The little girl inched closer, ignoring the nervous looks from adults nearby, because children often sense what grown-ups miss, and she could see it in rare size, the tension mixed with uncertainty, the way his tail rested still against the floor, not relaxed, not alert, just waiting. And she whispered again, this time softer, "I'm waiting too," as if offering him company in a shared pause neither of them had chosen. Rare's breathing changed first, slow and deep. Then he leaned forward just enough for his nose to reach the edge of her sleeve, and that small movement sent a ripple through the officers watching from a distance, because it wasn't standard behavior. It wasn't trained response. It was a choice. And in that moment, something unspoken passed between them, a recognition that loneliness didn't care about age or rank. The girl smiled, a fragile smile that looked like it had been missing for a while, and she told him about how her flight was delayed, how her mom was talking to someone at a counter far away, and how airports made her feel small and forgotten. And Ranger listened the only way he knew how, by staying, by not pulling away, by lowering himself into a lying position beside her, placing his massive presence between her and the overwhelming world around them. People began to stop and watch, not because it was dramatic but because it was real, and even without Knowing the full story, they could feel it. The quiet strength of a working dog, choosing compassion, the courage of a child choosing connection. And somewhere, deep inside Ranger, a decision was forming, one that would soon turn this simple moment into something no one in that terminal would ever forget. Ranger didn't know words like comfort or reassurance the way humans did, but he understood presence. And as the little girl leaned closer, resting her small hand on the edge of his vest, he shifted his body just enough to make space. Careful, controlled, yet unmistakably protective. And that was when the officer across the terminal noticed the change. Because this wasn't a dog simply tolerating attention. This was a canine, actively choosing to guard someone who wasn't part of his assignment. The girl spoke again, her voice barely louder than the hum of the building, telling him her name was Lily. My name is Lily S. I hate waiting. Waiting usually means something bad already happened. And Rare's ears flicked at that because waiting was the hardest command of all, the one that required trust without certainty. And as if he understood, he lifted his head and let out a slow, steady breath, grounding himself so she could feel it, showing her that staying didn't always mean being forgotten. Minutes passed, then more, and when an officer finally approached to gently guide Lily away, Ranger stood up, instantly positioning himself between them, not aggressive, not threatening, just firm. His body saying what his training allowed, that this child was under his watch now. And the officer froze, recognizing the seriousness of that stance, because canines didn't claim responsibility lightly. That was when the radio crackled with news that changed everything. The handler was stable, awake, and asking for his dog. And when Ranger heard his handler's name spoken out loud, his entire posture shifted, relief rushing through him so visibly that even Lily noticed, smiling wide as she said, "See, you weren't lost. You were just waiting for your person." And for the first time that day, RER's tail moved slow and steady against the floor. When Lily's mother finally returned, worry etched deep into her face, she stopped short at the scene. Her daughter kneeling beside a police dog, calm, safe, smiling, and tears filled her eyes because she had feared panic, fear, or chaos. But instead she found peace created by a dog who refused to abandon his duty, and a child brave enough to reach out first. The officers allowed a few more moments, knowing some things mattered more than schedules, and Lily hugged Ranger carefully around the neck, whispering, "Thank you," like it was a secret meant only for him. And Ranger leaned down, resting his head near hers, a silent promise that even in loud, crowded places no one had to face the weight alone. As they finally parted, Ranger returned to his post, sharper now, steadier, purpose restored, while Lily walked away, holding her mother's hand, whispering, taking a last caring glance. And Ranger sat tall, watching until she disappeared into the crowd. Because sometimes the strongest bonds are the briefest ones, and sometimes motivation comes not from commands or training, but from a simple question asked at the right moment by a child who reminded a lonely police dog why loyalty, patience, and heart will always matter. This story touched millions of hearts. If it touched yours, Let us know with a like. Comment your country name and subscribe. Or follow for more amazing stories like